Let's take a look at evaluating a web page for the author's credentials and the website agenda. I'm discussing the two together in this presentation because they are so closely linked that you can't evaluate one without looking at the other. Let's look at a web page example and go through this process. First, let's look for an author and credentials. There is no individual credited as an author. With web pages, you may or may not have a person listed. I've had students in past classes stop at this point and say that they wouldn't use the web page because there's no author listed. However, before you do this, you can make some assumptions if you do not have this information. What about the text of the web page? Is it filled with technical words that only people in a certain field would use? Then most likely the author is an expert on the subject matter. Instead of credentials, does the page mention it was evaluated by a committee or panel for content or accuracy? These are all things you can use to understand the author. Even if it's hard to know who the author is, fully evaluate the web page because there are other aspects that can make up for not having this information. In this case, the website agenda is important for understanding the author and any bias in the information. The agenda of the website is not the point of the web page you are looking at. The agenda has to do with why the entire site is producing information. You have to do some clicking and searching to find the website agenda. First, you must get to the main site that this page is a part of. In many cases, you can do this by clicking on the logo at the top of the page, like World Nuclear Association here. You could also delete parts of the URL to get down to the top-level domain. An About WNA link is right here at the top of the page we're on. One of the options is WNA Overview. Let's look at that. On the About page, we see that the World Nuclear Association is the international organization that promotes nuclear energy and supports the many companies that comprise the global nuclear industry. And that the WNA website serves as the world's leading information source on nuclear energy and the global industry that produces it. This is the agenda. We can start to see where bias comes into play. Since this website serves the interest of nuclear energy organizations, do you think the information would have a pro-nuclear or anti-nuclear stance? The web page we are using from this site deals with global warming and power plant emissions. The author must have expertise in this area and may have selectively put together their information to make nuclear energy look like a better option. When you know the website agenda, you know the bias and you can better understand the author. So, on an activity question asking you to discuss the author and credentials of the page, you could say in your answer, "There is no author listed for this page. However, it must be a person with scientific knowledge in nuclear energy since the website represents the global nuclear industry and the language of the web page is very technical." When I ask you to discuss the website agenda, you could say, "According to the WNA, its website is the leading information source on the global nuclear industry and supports its goal of promoting nuclear energy and the companies that make up the nuclear industry." Let's branch out and look at some other examples of web page author and website agenda. Go on to the Part 2 video of this series to see these examples.